My name is Lloyd Anoa'i, and former WWE ECW wrestling superstar from Samoan Dynasty. And this is my story of my kidney transplant. My career in wrestling, I started back in 1985 and started 86, 87 in the ring. You know, I was young. I was only 15 years old. As all of my family, we all started young, but started at a young age and got into professional wrestling, and it's been a go ever since. I've been doing it now for going on 37 years, and there's nothing like it. You know, I just love the business. My heart, my passion is for the wrestling business, and it will always be part of the wrestling feather, in my life. As I was young, it put food on the table for me and my siblings, and now it puts food on the table for my family as well, my kids. So wrestling to me is very dear to my heart, and I think even if I wasn't wrestling in the ring, I will always be part of something to do with professional wrestling. Well, it started about 3 years ago. Back in, I think it was 2021, I was not feeling well. And so my wife was like, go to the hospital. Me being Samoan, we're hard-headed. And I didn't want to go to the hospital. So, but she forced me to go. And I had some type of flu symptoms. But they kept me in the ER, and they basically said, we want to do some more tests on you. So they took an x-ray of my chest, took blood work, of course. And next thing you know, the doctor comes in and he goes, we want to admit you. So I'm looking at the doctor. I said, why? You said it was some type of flu symptoms. Well, he told me that my heart looked enlarged, and there were some other things going on, and they said it's best for me to get admitted. So I was a little upset about that. I didn't want to stay in the hospital, but again, my wife talked me into staying in the hospital. So we stayed. We went upstairs. They got me a room. There was different doctors for different, things there. Like they had the heart doctor there. They had the orthopedic doctor for, the kidney. There was nurses and everything in there. So each one of them were talking and telling me, what was going on. But the main doctor was the kidney doctor.
Where are you now?
I'm here to see Dr. Laika.
And who's she?
She's the kidney surgeon, I think she is.
Nephrologist? For the kidney transplant place?
Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
He sat there and he told me that my kidney function was not up to par. He said when they did the blood test, usually your kidneys, at my age, they should be running about 85, 87, something like that. But my kidney function was only running at 35. So that was a big, shock for me. And I asked him, I said, so what do we do from here? And he goes, well, you can still survive on your kidneys working at 35. They're still functioning, but they're very low. So it's a concern. And we just want to keep you here for more tests and everything. So he says, all right. And he goes and tells me, I want you to come back in a month, but I want you to get more blood work done. He goes, then in a month, let's see how everything works. I'm going to put you on a certain medication. Maybe your kidneys will kick in and start working again. We'll see what goes on. So the month went by, and, took the blood work 3 days before I went there, and we go to his office. I was waiting for him to say something good, but it wasn't good at all. He told me that my kidney level actually went lower, and it went down to 6%. In a month, it went from 35 to 6, and that's not good. He wanted to find out why my kidneys were deteriorating so fast. So I went back to the hospital, did the biopsy, And after the biopsy, tests came back, and they said, well, the reason why my kidneys were deteriorating so fast was because somewhere in my body I had an infection, plus, being a type 2 diabetic. But that infection, usually when you have things like infections and stuff, your kidneys fight it off. Well, my kidneys were to the point where they weren't strong enough to fight off this, infection. So at the time, my kidneys were actually so deteriorated that they were 60% scar tissue. So, I sat there and I told the doctor, what can we do? And he said, well, usually things like this, we would try to, give you steroids and certain medications to help it. He goes, but, I want to be honest with you, your kidneys are too far gone. So I asked him, I said, there's got to be something that can help me, so I can get my kidneys back working. We could work on trying to get you on a kidney transplant list. Now, as he's saying all this, my mind is gone. And I'm like, what do you mean? I said, no, I'm not going on any dialysis, or I don't need a kidney transplant. There's got to be something you can do. He basically sat there and he told me, he goes, that's the only thing we can do. He goes, but I'm gonna be with you all through it. He goes, I'm gonna stick through every step of the way and be there with you and try to help you as much as I can. So that time, reality kicked in. And I'm a grown man, but every grown man cries. So I actually broke down in the office and cried in front of my doctor and my wife. And my wife was next to me and she told me, don't worry, we're gonna get through this. And the doctor, being the great doctor that he is, and the person that he is, he actually came over there and he hugged me and he said a prayer with me. Now, you don't get too many doctors that do that, but when he did that, I felt it. It went through my soul and through my heart, because I knew he meant everything he said, that he would be with me all the way through this, helping me. From there, it was home and to just put everything in my brain, well, I got to do it in order to survive, because if I don't, I won't be around to see my kids anymore or my family. And I never wanted that to happen. So I went on dialysis. My doctor, Dr. Nunn, he worked fast for me. He got me to get home dialysis, which I could do from home so I don't have to be in the clinic. So I did the dialysis through the port. They taught us home. My wife, being, working in the hospital before, she kind of caught on to everything. And that lady, she hooked me up every morning. Didn't miss a beat. Woke me up, got me up, put the machine on me. And I've heard of people, waiting 2, 3 years, 4 years, even 10 years to get a kidney transplant. I shouldn't say I wanted to give up, but it felt like I wanted to give up. And then finally, we put it out there that whoever would like to take the test, because they have a new thing where they have a home test where you can do it right from your home. So finally, my wife was like, well, I want to take the test. And don't worry. She goes, I'm going to be your match. And I was like, all right, babe. I said, don't get overexcited about it, because, I know she loves me and I know you love me. And I said, but, I don't want you to feel discouraged or anything like that. She goes, well, I'm going to take the test anyway. So our days went by, continued on dialysis, and she put me on the machine. And then all of a sudden, I hear screaming and crying. And I hear her call me, babe. And I just woke up out of my sleep. And she comes over there and she has the phone in her hand and she's got it, in her hand. And she's like, babe. And I'm like, what? And my heart's going 100 miles an hour, getting, woken up out of my sleep. And the next thing you know, she's like, I'm your match. And when she said that, it didn't dawn, it didn't click on me. And then I hear this other voice, which it was the doctor on the phone. And I hear the doctor go, yes, Mr. Anoa'i, you don't have to worry about it. She goes, your wife is your match. You know, I want to tell you guys something. She goes, I've been a doctor for 12 years, and this is something that we call a miracle, because there is only 1 out of 100,000 that a wife and a husband would be a match like you guys. We're talking about same blood, same tissue match, because they do it all. And the size of her kidney, when we found out afterwards, would only be 2 centimeters off from my size. And I broke down crying again. I'm like, man, I can't believe this. This is the work, not only the blessing that my wife is my match, but this is the Lord working. And little did I know from my wife saying she was going to be my match, because there was a lot of times where she would tell me that, and I told her, don't get encouraged. I don't want you to get discouraged when you're not. She always told me, she goes, I know I'm going to be your match, because every time I talk about it, I get this feeling in my body. She was the vessel for God, because he was letting her know that she was going to be my match and everything was going to be okay. And we went through the process. We went through a couple of bumps in the road, you know, for the rest of the tests, but the good Lord bring us through those as well. It was March the 17th, I believe. We got the phone call where we got a date for you to do the kidney transplant. But then I had this young, wonderful doctor that I met because he wanted to meet me, and I didn't know why. And here it come to find out that he is the director and the head of the kidney transplant unit in Tampa General. But he actually took over because he's trying to make a difference. His name is Dr. Watkins, and he came there to make a difference. So he wanted them to know, no matter if a guy is big or a lady's big or whatever it is, if we can operate and give them a kidney to save their life, we're going to do it. After we got the phone call, maybe 2 weeks tops, that, you know, we're going to get this done. And my wife was so happy. She was ready to go. If they would have said the next day, like, we're going to do it tomorrow, she would have done it. She was gung-ho about everything.
So your arrival is at 5:30
a.m.
5:30 a.m.
for him.
Yes.
So, you know, we had to go through the process, sign the papers and all that, get it over to the hospital. And they said we're going to do it on March 28th. So I go back to the doctors, and just to go through the transplant things we have to go through. And another doctor comes in and he says, well, you know, Mr. Anoa'i, we're going to have to postpone your transplant. It is because your sugars are too high, and it could be not good to do the transplant because, you know, of infection, a lot of things to go with it when your sugar's high. So they decided to give me a week and a half, I believe, to get my sugars down and see what my AC1 level will go down, because at that time it was at a 9, and they wanted it at least underneath an 8 in order for them to do it. So the week's up, and go back to the doctors and do blood work. And where we go to blood work in Tampa General, they have the clinic there where they see the blood and they get it done right away. So we sat there and waited, and they came back out, and unfortunately the doctor goes, well, we said that we can get, if you can get it down to an 8 or lower, we can do your transplant. But right now it's at a 8.9, I believe it was. And I said, come on, I've been doing great. You can see the numbers here. And I shouldn't say fought with them, but I argued a good argue with them and told them they have to do it. We have to do it somehow. Until finally, you know, the doctor said, all right, let me go in front of the board. And, see what they say, and we'll go from there. She goes, I don't know if they're gonna do it, but I will do my best to put it in front of them and show them that, your sugars were down low and you were doing great. So she said, I'll call you in 2 hours. I went down the street and I stopped somewhere just to grab a cup of coffee and call my wife and let her know what was going on. And she, again, on the phone, she goes, don't worry, babe. She goes, it's gonna work out. They'll come up with something. I'm sure, let's pray on it. And that's what we did. We prayed on it. And as I was sitting there drinking a coffee, my mind's going 100 miles an hour again. And then finally I get the phone call. I'm sitting there and the phone rings. And I'm in this diner. And next thing you know, I pick up the phone and the doctor is on the phone. She goes, yes, Lloyd. She goes, this is Dr. Laika. She goes, all right. She goes, well, went in front of the board and they are going to do your surgery on the date that we set, 28th. Oh my God. I couldn't even breathe at that time. I was like, wow. And I just looked up at the sky and I said, thank you, God. Because that's all his work. All his work. Because he made everything happen. When the lumps were there, he provided. We went right over that lump and it happened. And God is so good. Now it's nothing stopping us. Nothing. March 28th was the date. And day by day, it was going fast. The days felt like they were only 8 hours and 24 hours and, they were short. I couldn't believe we were going through this. But it was a happy moment because, family was there. And of course, I was getting calls from my cousins and my dad and sisters. And it was just really nice to hear from them and, wishing me a great surgery, and they knew that everything's gonna be fine. So I had all the support. So here comes the day. Early in the morning, here we go. Get to the hospital. Go to pre-op where you sign in and everything. It's like 5:30 in the morning. We're in the hospital. And we were walking down the hallway, going to the elevator, and they took my wife in a separate room and had me in one room.
Big dog's going in. You ready?
As ready as I have to be. And they started prepping us and doing everything they needed to do. And of course, at that moment, my wife, they would take her first because, they would have to get her kidney out, get it ready for me.
Hi, transplant day.
Next thing you know, here comes another hump. Now my potassium level's too high. I'm going to send you down, put you on dialysis for 2 hours, and, get you back up here, and it should, put your potassium level down. So I went downstairs, they took me to the dialysis unit and they hooked me up. I fell asleep, of course, woke up, they took me upstairs, and they were like clockwork. As soon as I got in there, they started prepping me again. It was like seconds they were doing stuff because now they were ready. My potassium level went down and now they're ready to go to work. And right now my wife's kidney now is out, so it's only been on ice for like maybe 20 minutes, and which isn't bad at all, but they prepped me right away and boom, there I was going out. And right before I went out, they let me see my wife. She was in the room. She didn't even know I was looking at her. And they took me down, and that was it. From there, I went down there. They explained what they were going to do. And I said, before you put me down, I want everybody to join hands with my doctor, and I want to say a prayer. So I held their hands and we all said a prayer. They put the mask on me, told me to breathe, and from there, I don't remember nothing. So next thing you know, I'm waking up in recovery, and they bring me upstairs. And first one that walked through the door, there's my kids and my stepmom Lynn. She was there through it all. She stood there from 5:30 in the morning and stayed there to make sure that I was going to be okay. And my doctor told me, and he told my wife as well, he says, your wife gave you an unbelievable kidney. She gave you a great kidney.
Big boy. Safe and sound now. Yeah.
And I just didn't know what to think, man. You know, it was done, but still reality didn't kick in, because I was laying in that bed and I'm sitting there, and the only thing that go through my mind is, how's my wife? Is she okay? Because that's what I was worried about, because there's procedures, you know, things could go wrong. They got me to sit in a chair and try to get up and everything, and my kids were there, and next thing you know, here comes my wife rolling in the wheelchair into the room. And that was like the happiest moment for me to see her. You know, even though it wasn't on my face, because I was, you know, they had a lot of drugs in it, you know, to keep the pain away. But I was just so happy and blessed to see her. My biggest fear was, I shouldn't say not so much me, but so much to make sure that my wife was going to be okay, or for both of us to be okay, mainly for her, because she gave something to me to save my life. Without her, I don't know how much longer I would be able to last. So that was my biggest fear of, if anything happened to either one of us, you know, because our kids, you know, my younger son, you know, he's 15, you know, and he's always with us. He lives with us. My other two are older, but, you know, just a lot of things that I feared. But I kept it in, you know, I prayed on it. I kept it in God's hands, and I knew that He would make everything work out, and He did. If God forbid, if anything did happen to my wife or myself, so that was a little scary for me. Well, after post-procedure, you know, right now, I'm feeling great. You know, I'm starting to feel myself again. It was a little bit, you know, of a process. You know, in the beginning, I was more frustrated than anything, because they told me I couldn't eat certain foods anymore because of bacterias, and, like, you know, us Samoans, we like to eat raw fish. And now I can't eat raw fish anymore. So I was kind of mad, and I had to watch, you know, what I ate, you know, and it was a lot of things that I had to watch what I ate because of potassium as well. So I was frustrated. The first week I was mad at everybody, because everybody was concerned about me. They were trying to tell me, you can't eat this, you know, watch what you eat. And it was just overwhelming, you know, so I was kind of like, grouch. But I come to realize afterwards that, you know, they're just looking out for me. But right now, you know, it's going on 4.5, 5 months now that I've had my surgery, and a lot of people see me now. They said, oh man, you got your color back, you know, you look good. You know, I lost weight, you know, and I want to continue to lose weight and keep myself healthy. You know, so I still go to the doctors every week to get blood work. Now they actually turned it into 3 weeks, every 3 weeks, because actually I'm doing great. I'm happy about that. And I'm just trying to do everything correct. You know, my wife is like clockwork. 8 a.m., she's up giving my medication. At night, she gives my medication. She basically does everything for me, and I am blessed. I am really blessed with her in my life. Because you know how God, you know how they say, you know, God puts people in your life for a reason. And I truly believe that we were meant to be together, because look what we've been through. Just look at it. It's a testimony itself. How God is good and how my wife didn't hesitate to give me her kidney when we knew that she was my perfect match. This lady sat there and she gave her kidney to me and to save my life. You know, she's gold to me. She's my world. And she'll always be a part of me because I got a part of her inside of me.
Lift me up, hold me down, keep me close, safe and sound. Burning in a hopeless dream, hold me when you go to sleep. Keep me in the warmth of your love when you're deep, but keep me safe, safe and sound. Lift me up, hold me down, keep